December 14th, 1999, my life changed forever. I experienced the real India, an India not too many people know about or understand. After the 20-hour flight, I found myself imagining song and dance numbers being performed in the middle of the street, a false pretense Bollywood cinema created for me growing up. I thought of the wonderful costumes and dramatic plots I would find myself in the middle of. I thought of all the wonderful sceneries I would see and the beautiful people I would surely meet on the streets of India. When I got off the flight, the first thing that hit me wasn't a random song and dance number. It wasn't the beggars on the street or the little children trying to help me with my bags in exchange for a few rupees. It was the smell. The smell was a mixture of every bad smell you could possibly think of. It hit me like a ton of bricks. The crowds of people couldn't even muffle the smell, not even slightly. It was like walking into a wastewater treatment plant without the masks or any gloves. Trust me, I've been there before. I know what I'm talking about. After meeting my mom's family and friends, I was driven around Bombay to see the sights of the city. This was an adventure unlike any other. Besides avoiding speeding rickshaws and motorbikes, you have to learn to avoid the stray dogs and cats, along with the stray cows and camels, and sometimes an elephant. I watched the rickshaws full to the brim with young girls going to school, as well as poor young children living on the streets, begging me for spare change so that they could buy a bite to eat. Each day I watched individuals living on the streets of the city, washing their clothes and drainage systems, brushing their teeth and the rest of their bodies with the sewage water that only made them dirtier than they were before. I watched children beating themselves on the street, showing people like me their pain, hoping for a few rupees to supply their family with something to eat. I didn't know what to do or say. Nothing had ever prepared me for this experience. I realized that this isn't the world that I want to live in, that I want to have my children grow up in, where I can sit in a home, fully furnished without a care in the world as to what I'm going to eat for my next meal, given the option that I can eat for my next meal, while this little kid is living on the street, beating himself up, trying to get 1 rupee just to find something to eat. I realized how fortunate I was to be able to afford a ticket to see this poverty, let alone live it for my whole life. I knew I needed to help change this world for these children. I needed to pave a road for myself, which I could help these children who could barely survive, whose families could barely afford to support themselves, let alone their own children. Upon my arrival to the U.S., I worked hard to make sure I would be able to provide for myself what these families could not provide for their children. I worked hard in school to ensure a future for myself. My goal is to help individuals who can't help themselves, especially those in underprivileged and underdeveloped nations such as India. Through volunteering and nonprofit work, I realized that I could help the world one person at a time. I realized that by working with organizations who help underprivileged people, I can help the world. Through organizations such as Doctors Without Borders, which I hope to be hired through after I become a physician, I'll be able to help individuals who don't get health care they need. This way I can do my part in making the world a better place, not only for me and my future children, but the future generations of the world.